Hello and welcome to All the Way Down, a YouTube channel all about the Scottish rock band Biffy Clyro.
All the way down.
So far on this YouTube channel I have covered the history and background and all appearances of certain festivals in the UK. Reading and Leeds, Download Festival, I think there's a couple of more, but there was one that I'd forgotten about briefly, and it's possibly the most important one. Check this out.
After listening to a radio documentary series on the BBC recently, it hit me. Tea in the Park is the most important festival in the world of Biffy Clyro. The radio series, called The Rise and Fall of Tea in the Park, documented the story of the Scottish Music Festival, from its creation in the early 90s to its controversial demise a few years ago. Biffy was scattered across the entire 8 episodes. From unsigned hopefuls to celebrated headliners, this festival is possibly the closest we can track the band's rise. So, off the back of this radio series, let's take a look a bit closer at Biffy's history with Tea in the Park Festival. The first Tea in the Park started with a bang in 1994, forming after the reinvigoration of arts and music in the country. 4 years earlier, Glasgow held the title of City of Culture, which injected the city with bigger and better nightlife and entertainment. The big arts boom in the country spawned a festival, sponsored by Scottish alcoholic drink tenants and managing to attract huge acts from around the world. Rage Against the Machine, Björk and Cypress Hill appeared on the main stage in its first year, along with more local artists such as Delamitri and Primal Scream. Elsewhere, the festival really did show its awareness for future stars, with the likes of Blur, Pulp and Oasis all appearing in the King Tut tent. The date of Biffy's first appearance is somewhat hard to clarify, although it's common knowledge now to any old school Biffy fan that they were discovered by a record label representative in the unsigned tent. Details online about the specific year are inconsistent, but after a bit of research, I think this is the closest I'm going to get in terms of an accurate timeline. 1999. The font of all knowledge, Wikipedia, states that Biffy's first appearance at this festival was in the year 2000, but a Google search regarding the festival tells me it was the year before. Upon researching all of Biffy's appearances, an interview with Cy in 2010 tells us that it was in 1999, but in another interview, in 2002, Cy agrees with the interviewer that it was in the year 2000. My best guess is that it was in 1999. So let's go with that. Biffy played at the Tea Break stage. Originally called the Caledonia stage, the boys played alongside other local unsigned acts as part of a showcase. This is where they were discovered, and later signed to Scottish label Beggars Banquet. As you can imagine, video footage in the early days is hard to get your hands on, so there's nothing to see here, other than video camera footage of these lads on a Scottish lash. Just look at the size of those beer bottles. Even the setlist is impossible to predict, as Biffy has only released one single up to this point. When asked in an interview about the gig, Cy said that Ben's drum kit broke and Cy destroyed his hand. What a start! The year 2000. In a 2010 interview at the festival, James said that they first played in 1999 and got invited back the next year, yet I can't find Biffy anywhere on any poster to suggest they're featured. It may be that they played a smaller stage and weren't featured on the poster, a lot like the year before. Still, James said they played at Tea in the Park Festival 2000, so let's count it. 2001. In 2001, Biffy returned to the festival and were bumped up to the NME stage, playing on the same bill as Paul Weller, Catatonia and the Proclaimers. As always, I rely on the website setlist.fm for Biffy's sets, and if this is a complete setlist, it's quite short, with the tight 7-song Black and Sky era setlist, opening with B-side, Hope for an Angel. No, it's not actually on the album, can you believe that? The album would only come out a year after. I wonder what changed their mind. Again, no sign of any footage online for this set, so here's a bit of the Proclaimers to tide you over. 2002. A year later they played the NME stage again. With Black and Sky out 4 months earlier, it must have been a real thrill to return to the festival where they were discovered, with an album under their belt. Setlist.fm doesn't give me much. but YouTube offers a lovely little interview in which they show off some of their new logo tattoos, and a decent rendition of 57 to a bouncing audience. 2003. It turns out that 2003 was a bigger year for the band than I first thought. Second album The Vertigo of Bliss was released, and they managed to play the main stage at Reading and Leeds Festival after Welsh band Lost Prophets pulled out at the last minute. A month earlier they played at T in the Park, and can you believe it, the same thing happened again. Jack White from the White Stripes broke his hand earlier in the month and had to pull out of all appearances, forcing Biffy's NME stage slot to move to the main stage. R.E.M. and Coldplay headlined that year, after the likes of Idlewild, Feeder and The Charlatans. Just like the Reading and Leeds slot, Biffy's T in the Park appearance can be seen on YouTube, and it's pretty much a carbon copy of the other, the only real difference being the blonde streaks in Si's hair that must have grown out by the time they pitched up at Reading. Again, the stage seems to swallow them up a bit, but the crowd reaction is a lot warmer. Unlike the Reading setlist, the T in the Park setlist is available to see in all its fullness, with 9 songs consisting of singles and a finisher, Now the Action is on Fire. Great setlist. 2005. The Reading and Leeds Festival parallels continue from here on in, with one more main stage appearance before a drop to a smaller stage, and then a few more main stage slots. 2005 saw the Foo Fighters, Travis and Green Day headline. But before that, seemingly first on stage looking at this poster, Biffy stepped into the Scottish sunshine with a slightly shorter set as part of their Infinity Land tour. This one is pretty similar to the Reading and Leeds 05 set, but with new songs Asexual Meat Kitchen and Some Kind of Wizard omitted. I can't find any footage of this appearance, so here's a bit of footage of them from the same year. 2007. Biffy's fourth album was just over a month old when they played T in the Park in 2007. The set was slap bang in the middle of what looks like indie landfill. Setlist.fm only gives me 5 songs, but the Reading and Leeds set is 6 songs longer, so I reckon they played something similar to this. In an interview with NME on the day, Si comments that it's her 7th year doing it, which tallies up with my count thankfully. In another interview, they discuss the impact that Puzzle has had on them since it's released, as well as their widening future plans, which includes supporting the Rolling Stones. The interview concludes with a rendition of Living Is a Problem, which sounds as fresh as a daisy and super tight. If it's anything like the Reading set, 8 songs from Puzzle featured. 2008. Biffy finished off their T in the Park residency with 3 more main stage appearances, the first being in 2008. Headliners Rage Against the Machine, The Verve and R.E.M. closed the evenings, leaving Biffy to rock out in the mid-afternoon. Biffy tells NME that the festival has a special place in their hearts and remarks on the year's killer lineup. The boys were in between Puzzle and Only Revolutions at this point, and their 12-song set list leaned heavily on the former, with 2 songs played from Black and Sky. Decent footage of this set is hard to come by here, but mobile phone footage shows the familiar set dressing they were rolling out that summer, with 3 rectangular trussing armed with logos and lights. 2010. Biffy's appearance at the festival in 2010 comes with a lovely little documentary I found on YouTube called Only Reflections. It's half an hour of the boys talking about the Only Revolutions campaign, with backstage shots and clips of their live set. It's well worth a watch as it captures the band on a real roll, halfway through a strong album cycle and playing at a festival that no other band has played more. With half of the set list devoted to Only Revolutions, the rest are, quite frankly, the best of the rest of the last few albums. Their set time is worth mentioning here too. With Kasabian as Sunday headliners, the boys were oddly squeezed between Dizzy Rascal and Jay-Z, and creeping their way up the bill before their glorious return in 2014. 2014. A year earlier, Biffy headlined the Reading and Leeds Festival, possibly my favourite festival appearance of the band to date. This one is a close second. With opposites a year old, Biffy headlined the T in the Park Festival on their 10th appearance and 15 years after being spotted in the unsigned tent. It really is a wonderful story, and a perfect way to round off Biffy's experience with the festival. 2 years after this, the festival announced that it would be no more, after 2 deaths and high crime on the site led organisers to call time. Biffy pull out all the stops for this one. A packed 21 song set list, featuring at least 1 song from every album to date. including questions and answers, handheld strobes, a walkway ramp, and a bagpiper. You only have to wait until the second songs before the pyrotechnics. The staging is similar to Reading and Leeds Festival headline set, but instead of the branch's centre stage, they look as if they're poking out at either side. I re-watched this set in its entirety the other day. It's absolutely glorious. A real celebration of what they've come to achieve. I got a lump in my throat halfway through 57 to know that this song was probably played at their first appearance. It really shows just what hard work can do. Cy ends the set by saying, "We wouldn't be the band today without your support." Never a truer word said.
So that was it, all 10 appearances. I think there was 10. Do correct me if I'm wrong. It started in 99, all the way up to 2014. T in the Park was going for 30 years, obviously started in 94, and just didn't really hit me until I was researching it, just how important and how much of a kind of a dream the run was from 1999 to 2014, being young upstarters, only a couple of years old. Obviously started in 95, so a year after T in the Park was created, and to have that development from unsigned to getting picked up, releasing music, building an audience, and then coming back in 2014 to probably one of the most glorious headline festival sets I've ever seen. So I hope you've enjoyed that. August 2022, I've kind of dedicated to festival stuff. So you've seen Download, Reading and Leeds, and finally T in the Park. And I've left this one for the final one for a reason, because it is, I think, the most important one. If you can think of a band or an artist that's had such a great, rich history with the festival, and such a story from starting out to headlining, then do let me know. But I think Biffy and T in the Park is a special one. So I hope you really enjoyed that one.